So Zero Breeze is asking me to prove that this thing will actually be a decent heat source. And I think I've done that. Hey guys, Tyler here, and I have been fiddling around more with the Zero Breeze system just because I no longer have a diesel heater for the tent. I had a diesel heater that was built into a front runner box that I built last year as one of the Auto-Term Planar units. And I no longer have that because I took it out of the box and permanently installed it into the camper. So when I'm using the tent, I want a way to heat it. And so I've been messing around with the Zero Breeze as far as using it as a heater. As an air conditioner, the Zero Breeze will cool a small environment about 30 degrees or less below the outside temperature. There's a whole compressor system inside of this. It's actually pulling heat out of the air and then venting that into the tent. So because of that process, it is blowing hotter air than what came into it. And because of that, you can use this as a heater. And I proved it last weekend when I was out doing my recovery board test. I took this thing and I used it as a heater while I was out there. It has to be above freezing. This will not heat a tent in freezing temperatures. By above freezing, I mean like 40 degrees. So the downside here is I'm only gonna get like 4 or 5 hours of heat because I'm gonna run this full blast. Okay, power up. I am gonna use the rocket ship mode here. So I want this thing to be running at basically full pace. This thing is not gonna work in freezing temperatures. It needs to really be above, if I were to guess, almost maybe 45 or above, but I'm gonna say 40 because above freezing, every degree above freezing, it's gonna be able to pull heat out of the air and cycle it back through. And you're ducting this thing into your tent and ducting the AC out of your tent. But if it's freezing, then there's no heat to pull out of the air. If you understand what I'm saying. I have a very rudimentary understanding of this whole process. All right, we're gonna see what happens. I have right now 50.8 degrees and we'll see how much it warms up. And again, this is not sold as a heater. All in all, it's been about an hour and 10 minutes and it is 66.4 and 66.4 is not fluctuating very much at this point. I can feel it getting colder outside. I can feel the walls are kind of radiating the cold now. So since it's hovering at about 66, I'm gonna get a current reading on how cold it is outside. And I'm guessing it's probably around 47, 48 degrees. It's 47.6 degrees. So it's warming up about 20 degrees, which is pretty good. This isn't a diesel heater that you're gonna use to go on like a ski trip in your camper van or something like that, but it is cool that it'll actually help. It is, I think, October 22nd today, 23rd. And so it's cooling off pretty quick. Tonight's gonna be pretty cool, like maybe 45 degrees, not too bad. I'm out here testing different things. Obviously I did the recovery board test, and I am also doing a test to prove to Zero Breeze that the air conditioner works as a heater as well. And I'm not trying to say that it will replace a diesel heater, but I am trying to say that it can be used as a comfort item. Last night was probably around 45 degrees and the heater kicks on and guess what? It heats it up, and it heats it up pretty good. I did a test last night on the actual temperatures that it was heating to. So Zero Breeze is asking me to prove that this thing will actually be a decent heat source. And I think I've done that. So anyway, I'm gonna do some more testing tonight. Should be a little bit colder, especially with this rain and stuff coming in. The rain is coming back in. I was planning on sitting around the fire, but the rain's coming back in. So I'm just gonna climb up top, start another test, because it is cooling down dramatically. I don't know what the temperature is outside. I will set my watch up accordingly to test that. Right now, it is going to be showing, let's see, 55 degrees inside the tent. It is for sure warmer in here, just climbing in here. Warmer than outside. Of course, the temperature will decrease between now and midnight. I'm gonna set my watch there to get a rough understanding of what it's like outside. I'm guessing it's gonna get down to about 45 degrees tonight. So I'm gonna run it until about midnight, turn it off, and then in the morning, I'll turn it back on so I'm not freezing in the morning, because it worked pretty well for me today. So I'll sleep most of the night until it gets cold, turn it on, warm the tent back up. What I'm doing tonight, instead of going this way, is I have the air inlet, which is the sucking air in, I've got it pointing up. The air outlet, the exhaust side that's pointing pushing the hot air, is blowing back towards the back of the tent. And then the cold air for the AC is actually blowing outside. Just as a reminder of what's happening here. All right, so I have had the Zero Breeze going for a while again. This is night 2, and it is definitely warmer in here than it is outside. I've noticed I took my sweater off, and let's see what the temperature difference is, or at least let's see what the outside temperature is right now. So I can feel cold rushing in when I zip that down. It's 45 degrees outside. Okay. On the dot even. I've had my watch sitting outside of the tent, which is in between the main compartment here and the screen, and it's just sitting in there, 45 degrees. So tonight it's probably going to get to 38 to 40 if I were to bet. I'm guessing it's probably about 68 degrees in here. It's actually pretty warm. The Zero Breeze is heating it up dramatically, which is nice because like on a night like tonight when it's 45 degrees outside, that's not that cold, but it's wet outside. So I'm in here and I'm in a dry environment. This thing is pulling moisture out of the air, and I have the water drain tube going outside. So it's pulling the moisture out of the air. It's creating dry air. So all of my stuff is going to dry off. My sweater is going to dry off. It was getting rained on. So it's pretty nice. The Zero Breeze does more than I could have expected it to do. Okay, so right now it is 70, let me read that right, 76.4 degrees in here. So we're actually getting 30 degrees difference tonight in here. And I think the reason it is so much warmer tonight, I got into the tent before it cooled down. So it's now able to kind of keep up with the heat that much easier. So tonight it's doing significantly better than it was last night. I do have it on rocket ship mode. One is the speed on the fan. It's not even full blast on the fan, but it is full on. 76.8 is what it says now. I had my watch sitting up top also tonight, which might read a little bit different, but I can tell that it's warm in here. It's too warm in here. So I'm going to turn this down quite a bit lower, but I think I've proved my point that this thing is heating up my tent significantly. 46 outside, 76 in here, almost 77. 76.8. We can just round that up. Now, if I were to turn this on in the middle of the night tonight when it gets down to like 42 degrees, it will not get the tent up this warm. There's no way, because it's using hot air right now to reheat exponentially. It'll take it a while to get this warm again. But I think also what's helping is last night I had this vent going towards the floor of the tent. Now I have it upward. So it's pulling warmer air because it's a little bit higher. It's pulling warmer air, and so it's heating a little bit better. Because I don't know what the outlet is here, but I'm gonna guess the outlet temperature is probably 90 to 100 degrees because this is pretty warm right here. So anyway, it's working pretty damn well. Okay, so it is, let's see, 11:30-ish, 72.8 degrees in here. Too warm. 73, okay. It is too warm for sure. 11:31, and yeah, so it's about 50 degrees outside. It actually warmed up about 4 degrees. It was 46 out there, warmed up though. So this thing is heating between 20 and 25 degrees consistently. I had opened the tent up to go down to the truck, and so I let a lot of the hot air out, so it kind of got lost. But honestly, I don't want it to be this warm. This is uncomfortable. It's too warm. So I'm going to turn it, I'm probably going to turn it off again for sleeping. And then in the morning when I get cold, I'll wake up, turn it back on real quick, and it'll warm the tent back up. Even though it's not necessarily intended for it, it is working. The night that I tested this, it only got down to about 42 degrees while I was actually testing it. I just wanted to prove that this could be a solution for a lot of people on both sides, both cooling and heat. Of course, diesel heaters, something producing a ton of heat, is going to be able to produce more heat at lower temperatures, but this thing worked pretty good in my testing. I think a lot of people actually just stop camping as soon as winter rolls around anyway. So this can kind of work as a climate control function for 3 seasons, I think is a good way to put it. The reason this thing works as a heater is it's pulling, on the back side, it's pulling hot air in and blowing hotter air out. On the front side, it's pulling cool air in and blowing cooler air out. So what you're doing when you're using this as a heater is you duct it to where one duct kind of comes one way and another goes another way, and that's just kind of get the circulation going. You don't want the air just coming out and going right back in. So you kind of duct it, and then you duct the cold air, the AC, outside of the tent, and then what is effectively happening is the front is pulling cold air in, blowing the cold air out. The back is pulling the hot air from the tent and warming it up even more. On a 42-degree night, when I tested this, I got up to, I think it was 76 degrees. It might have been 78, but I think it was 76 degrees to the point where I turned it down. And that was on full blast, the rocket ship mode, which will only last for 5 hours. So that is the downside. Because this thing is heating based off of having some heat to begin with, I don't think taking this out on a 30-degree day is going to do anything, because you're not really going to be producing that much heat. There's not much heat to pull out to begin with. I'm going to test that. I'm curious about it, especially on a smaller tent that's well insulated like the Alu Cab. The downside of using this as a heater is the time of the year you're going to be using it as a heater, you don't have as much solar. One of the things that I really like about this is that you can charge it off of solar. I can charge it off the camper solar, I can charge it off the FJ solar, but the FJ kind of lacks a little bit of power. But as far as when I'm using the Red Arc system, I can charge this thing up just fine. But it is going to be harder to charge the battery. Anyway, I'm gonna do some more testing on this thing because we're getting ready to get some snow here in Colorado. It's gonna cool down dramatically. Right now, it is already 39 degrees out tonight, and in the next couple nights, it's gonna cool down even more than that. And I'm gonna let this run in the tent without me in it, and I'm gonna hook up the GoPro, and then I'll be able to monitor it on an actual cold night to see just how well it does, just because I'm curious. Maybe it won't do that well at that temperature, but it might be surprising too. So again, with the single battery on this, if you didn't watch the other reviews, you get about 5 hours on full blast. And for heating, you're gonna want a full battery because you wanna run it full on, especially the colder it is, the more you're gonna need to run it for the heat function. So battery power is one thing that you need to think about. During the summer, I can charge this off of solar, no problem. I'm really not worried about it doing so. With a little bit of driving on my Red Arc system or using an extra solar panel, I can charge this thing up. But during the winter months, that will be more of a challenge just because we don't have as much sun. I think this is a good solution for a lot of the country where you're dealing with very moderate winters and very hot summers, like Arizona or Nevada or something like that, because then you can get out, use this as an air conditioner, and then on your moderate cold nights of 35 to 40 degrees, this is an option to heat up your tent. So anyway, I just wanted to show that this thing is actually kind of got a bonus feature. So I thought that was pretty cool, so I wanted to share that with you guys in case somebody is interested in getting one of these things, maybe this winter or next year or something, to prepare their new rig. I do think that it's a cool setup just because it's more universal, especially for all the desert people or the people in those moderate climates. So I'm going to insert a video of this thing on a colder night, like somewhere between 30 and 35 degrees. We should be getting some snow this week. It's going to cool down. And then just out of curiosity, not that I intend on using it at that temperature, but if it works, I mean, even 20 degrees above 30 degrees, if I can get it that much more, sleeping in 50 is a lot better than sleeping in 30. And of course, I've got all the sleeping bags to do so, but waking up and not just, you know, being frozen as soon as you get out of your sleeping bag is pretty nice too. I apologize for my blurry outside temperature display. The larger screen here is showing the temperature of the inside of the tent. It finally got cold enough to test this. It was 38 degrees when I started, 34 when I ended, and as you will see here, it was a losing battle for the Zero Breeze, so I really do think the sweet spot is going to be above 40 degrees, and around 45 is ideal. Okay guys, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you like this type of content, consider subscribing to the channel, and until next time.